مرحبا بكم مشاهدينا في حوارات السياق. قام اثنان من عمالقة وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي بحذف فيلم وثائقي يعود لعام 2016 ويسلط الضوء على دور الغرب في ثورة أوكرانيا لعام 2014. يروي الفيلم الوثائقي أوكرانيا تحت النار الانتفاضة التي أطاحت بالرئيس الأوكراني السابق فيكتور يانوكوفيتش، وكيف صعدت بعدها حكومة موالية للاتحاد الأوروبي وحلف شمال الأطلسي هناك. ويظهر في الفيلم المخرج أوليفر ستون المعروف بانتقاده لسياسات الدول الغربية. الفيلم تم حذفه أولا من يوتيوب ثم بعدها من منصة فيمو. للمزيد من المتابعة ينضم إلينا مخرج العمل إيغور لوبا تونوك. سيد إيغور، مرحبا بك معنا.
Thank you for having me.
لماذا باعتقادك تم الآن حذف الفيلم الوثائقي أوكرانيا تحت النار وليس في عام نشره عام 2016؟
We was censored and suppressed on YouTube because message of our film and about that complex situation and the coup d'etat of 2014 happened in Ukraine do not fit mainstream media narrative, do not fit the picture what the MSM and the West try to push to everyone and said that's no neo-Nazi in Ukraine. This is freedom fighters. 2014 events was a revolution. So our vision is different because we present our alternative vision of situation. So that was an armed coup d'etat in 2014, what was supported by United States and the State Department and people who want the changes like George Soros or other very much radical liberals and also neoconservatives like Victoria Nuland and Senator McCain. This message do not fit the picture because picture what now mainstream media try to push very hard. This is a Russian aggression, the Ukrainians, all the good people who want to join European Union, and it's totally not matching our message in our film. So they start pressing. First, they delete completely our film from YouTube. What was safe on YouTube, and not only on YouTube, on Apple TV, Amazon, and everywhere for the 6 years. After that, when we fight back and we publish that on a Rumble, YouTube restore our film, but restricted in a way what limited, very much limited audience ability to see that. And Vimeo, another big tech outlet, followed that steps. And they, because we use Vimeo as an alternative in the beginning, they like a 3-4 days, and they also canceled the stream. They deleted our film from Vimeo and give us a warning about our film is very graphic. It's a lot of violence. So yes, our film about war. How we're supposed to show the casualties? How we're supposed to show? We need to blur them or what? And another side, the Netflix documentary called Winter on Fire, what has exactly same level of graphic violence, there's a completely free on YouTube. There's no warning about that. So it's a hypocrisy.
هذا يدفعني للسؤال أكثر عن الوثائقي وكيف تم التحضير والعمل عليه والتحقق من المعلومات فيه.
Yeah, first of all, yes, I'm not Ukrainian, I'm American. I moved to the United States in 2008, but I have Ukrainian roots. I was born in Soviet Union, grown up in Ukraine, start working in a big business first, moved to the movie industry 2005, 2008, I am immigrate to the United States. So I know a lot about of history in Ukraine. I know about political system in Ukraine, all corruption, what was going on in Ukraine. And 2013, when the Maidan started happening in Kiev, in the capital, Maidan, it's a main square in the center of Kiev. We already was doing documentary, big major documentary, and we're looking for the big director. Finally, we find the Oliver Stone, and he's agreed to support us, to lend his name and to conduct an interview with us and be our executive producer. He said to me, Igor, but you need to direct it because you know much more than anybody else about this situation. Do not shop for another director. Direct it yourself. So from his hand, I proceed to be a director, and we did it. And 2016, we released it in Italy on a Taormina International Film Festival. We got an award for the best documentary, and we was out of competition, a special event, and it was a special award. Audience very much love it because our narration is different, and it's completely alternative version of all events what's happened. You can never see that narration in any Western media.
دعني أستوقفك هنا. أنت تقول إن الوثائقي يروي قصة مختلفة عن الأحداث في أوكرانيا. كيف ذلك؟
Different because, first of all, biggest difference, we not showing the coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014 as a revolution of dignity, at Ukrainians calling themselves a revolution of dignity, but we're showing how it was more look like coup d'etat and a color revolution supported and instigated from abroad, with the local support, of course, with the people was in a discontent with the policy and corruption in Ukraine, but that was not an uprising from the roots of people. That was instigated, fed, financed, well organized, and carefully implemented through the media and actions on the street. And you know what? They were so horrible in this. They killed their own people. They killed protesters on the street to ignite the storm in the media. So this is how we call it. This is our biggest difference. And we also study history of Ukraine to explain to audience why that happened in this way. We also do the parallels to Arab Spring, to what's happened in an Arab country, and starting from Tunisia, as I remember, and a lot of presence of foreign NGOs was involved in this. We cover in everything what's happened in the East. Our documentary going up to the end of 2016. But after that, we filmed and directed another one. We filmed the follow-up, what's called Revealing Ukraine, when we covered the story up to 2019 and up to Zelensky. President Zelensky come to power on an anti-war narration when he was supported ending the war, and people elect him because the previous president was such a warmonger, Petro Poroshenko, so the people was not happy with him. And Zelensky promised on the first day in his inaugurational speech, what his most important goal, this is a stop the war in Donbass. You see what he's doing. He bring all of us on the edge of World War III because he want to stay in power. This is the reason what nobody discussed here in the West. Why we dealing with Zelensky, how good he represent the Ukrainian people, how democratically he was elected, yes, but how big his support now? He has support like around 20% just in the beginning of February. So he lost a lot of credibility in Ukrainian society. Nobody talking about that, and nobody talking that now the regime of Zelensky kidnapping during the night times all opposition journalists, bloggers, press, TV people, everybody who criticized him now under tremendous threat of just extermination.
هل من الطبيعي بالنسبة لك أن تدخل دولة بجيشها أراضي دولة أخرى لتفرض عليها ما تراه مناسباً؟
First of all, we need to understand this is not the beginning of the war. What's happened on February 24, this is the end of the war. Because war was started in 2014. War against Donbass was announced, and the interim president of Ukraine, Mr. Alexander Turchinov, he has the blood on his hand because he started the war against their own people of Ukraine. And for the 8 years, nobody in the West pay attention to casualties, what Ukrainian army and Ukrainian nationalist and neo-Nazi battalions doing in Donbass. They killed more than 14,000 people. More than 500 children was killed in Donbass. because they using heavy artillery, they using a lot of regular army, the air forces in the beginning, and after that they proceed to fire from the not from only grenade launchers. They using 152 caliber of heavy artillery to shell in the megapolis. There's more than 1 million people was living in just in Donetsk, one city. So they doing this for 8 years. So everything was happening in 24 when Putin see the real threat and real danger to Russia and to people of Donbass. They decide they will do this limited military incursion in Ukraine for the not against Ukrainian people, but against military installation, military of Ukraine, and all neo-Nazi and the nationalist radical battalions was operating in Ukraine. Because trust me, most of that people has not under control of President Zelensky. They even fighting with Ukrainian army. Ukrainian army firing ballistic missiles on the national battalions now in Mariupol. This is how small control of Zelensky over the neo-Nazi in Ukraine.
هل باعتقادك كل الغرب بزعمائه ومثقفيه وأكاديمييه مخطئون في دعمهم الكامل لأوكرانيا؟
First of all, let's talk about the world, because what's Putin doing as well, he's not doing is only against, this is not only about Ukraine, because Russia finally said to West, we're giving up on you. We understand we was open from 1991 to collaborate. We was ready to be a partner, but you're not taking us serious. They stopped that. They extracting Russia from the Western world, and looks who is united with United States. There's only Anglo-Saxonian countries like United States, Great Britain, Europe, and Canada, Australia, and Japan. But look on other countries. Look on China. Look on India. Look on Latin America. Brazil even not condemned Russia. Argentina, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Iran. So now what we see that fragmentation of the world, and we see the emerging of new world order, because what's Putin I think doing, they building the new world order, what will be not one polar order with a hegemon of United States, but it will be balanced with a free superpower now, China, United States, and Russia. And this is new world order, need a new rules and new security treaty, because it's not existed and now. As soon as that events in 24 February this year happened, everything what was achieved in Yalta in 1945, when Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt discussed and formed the way how the world will be ruling after World War II, more peaceful world, that's coming to the end. A new formation, a new strategy needed. And this is what we're witnessing now.
وكأنك تحكم على أغلب وسائل الإعلام بأن روايتها غير واقعية للأحداث.
First of all, Western coverage was prepared to confront the Russia. You know what, they start talking about, but not everybody in the United States even taking this mainstream narration as a truth. First of all, we live in 4 years from 2016 to 2020, during the Trump tenure in the power, with a big constructed narrative, was Russia intervene and interfere in American election 2016. As the Mueller investigation and others investigations after happened, and all leaks what's happened after, now the American people understand that was a zero or close to zero Russian interference. But it was everywhere, and every media, the Trump dossier and all that things, and that was a political reason for this. So let me explain you why the media in the United States and following up the media in the world following this narration about Ukrainian events. First of all, they need something what's better than COVID, because COVID is gone, as people not scared anymore. So they invent this World War III threat for keep people in fear, because they want to keep ships be scared and they run in the right direction. Second, the economy is in disarray. We facing tremendous stagflation in the United States. We're facing financial instability, and we don't know what to do with that. The United States has an enormous debt, what impossible to pay off, and even when the printing the money and the highest possible speed do not help, because people now in the United States, they divided. Both parties fighting each other. They have very little common ground, and our society needs something to unify. So after tremendous loss in Afghanistan, when withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan was a disaster, so the current administration needs a victorious war. That's why they operate their puppets in Ukraine, Zelensky, to start the war and go an invasion in Donbass. They planning this invasion at the end of February, beginning of March. But Putin another time outsmart them and strike first. So they want to make a decision of Donbass conflict by force. And they was prepping for that. This is what's happening in the media now. Now media pushing, but you know what? Practically 90% of all news what originate from Ukrainians in Ukraine debunked in 24, 48 hours. We know that they producing fakes for propaganda reason. They producing the constructed narrative to keep people's minds brainwashed. They saying that that you know the Snake Island myth, the host pilot of Kiev myth, and everything. So bombing. They even they find ballistic missile in Donetsk, and after that present the picture from this event as a result of Russian bombing in Kiev. That's ridiculous. And CNN and BBC and all other mainstream outlets, they just repeating this false narrative what Ukrainian constructing. But who is Ukrainians? Don't let them dupe you. This is not Ukrainians. This is very skilled, trained, the informational influence operators who is supervised by NATO, who supervised and trained by CIA. So that's people who is doing this. That's not Ukrainians. They was told how to do.
هل فازت أوكرانيا في الحرب الإعلامية؟ لاحظ يتم اتهام أي جهة تقدم رواية أخرى للأحداث بأنها مروج للبروباغندا الروسية.
No, I disagree with that because saturating media with fake, saturating media with false narrative and constructed reality do not help on the ground. It's help only here, but sooner or later, and I think it will be happening sooner because they crossed the line of reality in 2014. They working in this, they thinking in this, and they living in a imaginable world. But you know what? The Putin living in a realistical world. He's not the subjective, he's objective on the ground. This is what's hitting very hard. From the Ukrainian point of view, they practically won the war, military. And they're gonna be like glorious, victorious winner. The little country what win. But in reality, if you see and banned Russian news media or independent media who is on the ground, you see it's totally different picture. So Ukraine, not even close. Ukraine practically lost their army, and they have no military solution for that. They will be or capitulating and be neutral state with a very little army and not joining any blocks, because Putin say his goals is very clear: destroy the military capacity of Ukrainian government, because that government supposed want a war with Russia, and Russia will not allow that threat any longer on their border. Second, prohibit all Nazi movement, all Nazi, to make a denazification. So the kill that scam, because 27 million people die in Soviet Union during the World War II. Practically every family was affected. They cannot stand the swastika and all that flags and the insignia and everything what Ukrainian doing and all that atrocities. And they cannot stand to calling people of Donbass subhumans
هل هناك أصوات في أوكرانيا تتحدث مثلك وغير مسموح أن نسمع بها في وسائل الإعلام الغربية، وما حجمها؟
Practically everyone in the Donbas area on the Russian side, and this operation, first of all, stopping the war on their territory, ending the war on their territory. And as Putin explaining, if they not go deeper in Ukraine, they will be again and again coming back and back and attacking Donbas. So they gone deeper. But the whole narrative about that Russian troops, let me tell you, I have my friend who is completely on the opposite side, who worked for Ukrainian government, and he just fled with his 6 children to Romania. And he tell me, Igor, thanks God Putin troops do not fighting with civilians. This is our Ukrainian military blow up the bridge in front of us when we was begging for them to let us cross the bridge. They said no time, and they blow up the bridge in our front, and we drive like a 15 hours to find crossing the Dnieper River on another country. So this is a guy who is not admirer or fan of Putin actions. This is a regular Ukrainian who fled the country. And I believe that's a lot of people who will support. And I believe practically more, this may be the 50 to 50%. People who hate that action of Russia and people who support and that actions. But this actions not against the Ukrainian people. The Russian troops will do their work and they will withdraw.
مضطرة أن أستوقفك عند مسألة النازية. ما تم تداوله في وسائل الإعلام الغربية أنهم فئة محدودة جدا في أوكرانيا، تحديدا هم موزعون في كتيبة أوزوف، لكنك تتحدث عنهم وكأنهم هم السلطة أو هم من يقررون عنها.
First of all, the neo-Nazi movement, the Azov battalion was reaching up to 40,000 people. This is practically like a third part of all military in Ukraine. So that paramilitary battalions is not only Azov, that was at Dnieper 1, Dnieper 2, Aidar, Tornado, and others and others and others. So it's a bunch of Nazi in Ukraine, a lot. So SNBC just don't want to see them because that people do not fit the narration. And you know what? They controlling the government because as soon as Zelensky makes some steps to implement the Minsk agreement, they come to the president administration office and trying to put it on fire. The 1,000 people was protesting, throwing the Molotov cocktail in the office of president. So they delivering such a pressure on that guy. So he cannot fight them because they radical, they violent, and they well organized. And don't make any mistake. The guy who was established the Azov battalion, the Mr. Avakov, the ex-minister of internal affairs, he was in the government of Zelensky. He left the government just few months ago. So he was the chief of police, and the other people who is in there. When you listening to the Zelensky speakers who is in his parliament fraction, you will find such a similarity in the narration of Goebbels. And you know what else? Doesn't matter, Nazi, not Nazi. Ukraine signed the Minsk agreement in Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. I believe now they understanding that what's happened with the people who sign an agreement with Russia and who is declining to proceed to that agreement. So if you violate an agreement, everything go on a battlefield back. And they will be teach that lessons, sorry, not Ukrainian people, but people who are responsible for the government, the regime. So practically you can say, I see no future prospect of Ukrainian regime. They're gonna fall for sure. Or gonna go in exile and pretend they the government in exile.
أعود بك هنا إلى نقطتنا الأولى. ما هو حجم السلطة التي باتت بيد وسائل التواصل حتى تحدد نوع الرواية التي يجب سردها عن مجريات أي حرب؟
Yeah, the social media power is big because that's giving them ability to manipulate. And you know, the solution is very simple. We need to announce they as a publisher. if they try to make the editorial works, you and me working with the media, you know what is an editorial. If they edit in me, so they publisher. So they can be prosecuted as a publisher. In the United States, we have an exclusion from this rule, but nobody who was prohibited to talk, they say this is a private business, we do what we want. But as a publisher who is enforcing the editorial rights and trying to stay away, said, no, I'm not a publisher, just a platform. You can go here and you can express. This is the biggest changes what the social media needed. And, you know, the Google was under United States government lawsuit about the violation of their rules and monopoly what they do. But you know what? It's as well as with sanctions against Russia. If you do something bad to some, like the enemy, you're doing something bad as well for you. So as much as more the big tech implementing the sanction and censorship on the people who want to be here, then more they will new established platforms flourishing. So for example, we did 1.3 million views per 1 week on a platform Rumble as soon as we published our film in there. So we was on a level of 700,000 on YouTube. So that's giving a boost to all independent platforms who is not appreciate the censorship. And trust me, like, you know, that the big media will be fragmenting. I believe big tech will not survive this new reality. Sorry, I'm more, maybe I'm here like a prophet who want to do prophecy, and predictions is a very, very thin ice. You know, it's very, very problematic. But we was talking about the possible war in Ukraine for the 6 years, and we did 4 films on this, and it's very little who listen. Now, when the war is happening and this affecting not only Ukrainians, that's affecting entire world, people start get the traction and start understand. Oh, look, they talk about this in 2016, 2019. They said, please do not push us to the war because in this course. So maybe we was right. Not only alternative, but right.
سؤالي الأخير عن الإعلام عموماً، إلى أي مدى نحن معرضون لأخبار تم التلاعب بها؟
This is not only the fake news. This is more. This is like information influence operations, what media run under careful supervision of the masters who is behind the picture. This is not only media. Media is completely infiltrated, especially in the United States, by the CIA, intelligence community. They all working for the one goal. Who is that masters? This is a big question. People who want to do the changes in the world without will of people, without being elected and be in office, who want to do, that's people like George Soros. You can call everybody who is intervening in the social, construction of our society without any authority to do that, because they're not elected. They just rich, they powerful, and they want changes for their goals. For example, I know that George Soros, who was supporting Ukrainian revolution, so-called revolution 2014, very heavy, he was also benefiting on the money side very much. So he also pushed on the United States government to stamp the Ukrainian sovereign debt papers, what was worthless, to step at the, and to make them put the stamp of Treasury of United States. That will give him $2.5 billion in profit. Even Obama administration understand what he's doing, and they said him no. But that people who want to construct the power in a new way, and who never was elected as a presidents of nations to do that, this who is behind all of this manipulation. And trust me, media selecting the president of United States here, not a people. Media decide who sitting in a White Office, not the people of United States. And I predict in a big fight this November and big fight in 2024 in United States election, because they will not gonna stop. They will gonna do exactly same things as it did in Ukraine. They take this technology, they testing them in Ukraine as a polygon. They will bring it to United States and use it here. They already do that in 2020. They do the BLM movement. They bring people on the street. They defund the police. They do, and after that they infiltrate the 6th of January gathering of Republicans angry in Washington and make it violent, and make it unlawful. And you see the hypocrisy at such a level. When in 2014 in Ukraine, the angry people was seizing the government buildings, United States Embassy and Mr. Biden was telling to President Yanukovych, do not touch them. They peaceful protesters. When they exactly same things that happen in the United States, they persecuting everyone, even for the support on the social network. Then more we're gonna talk about this. Then more than we're gonna expose the action. Then more and more people will wake up from this brainwashed, constructed narrative of mainstream media and make decision by themselves, watching both sides, watching critically. So I believe that people supposed to be very, very careful to take something for granted, because there's nothing granted now. We're living in a fog of war. It's a lot of disinformation. And you need to decide yourself. You need to double check on sources. You need to double check and wait until that emotions will calm down, because they're trying to produce an emotion, and they produce an emotion, catching the narrative and pushing in your brain the new paradigm. This is a very dangerous, but because it's based on a false information. This is not true. This has no gut support behind of that. You know what? I was doing a 2-year documentary in Kazakhstan about this amazing country and the amazing leader Nursultan Nazarbayev. I will bring it to the Arabic world. We're gonna visit the United Arab Emirates soon and other countries, and inshallah, it will help to people to understand how big and what is Eurasia is. Because we live in a continent, you live in a continent, like a 5 billion people live there. And United States is far, far away. But to understand properly and to see how this power is constructing and moving, this is I was very fascinated with all stories what we see in Central Asia. And I have a Quran in my possession, and I'm reading this with a big interest. I study a lot of different religions, and every religion telling about one thing. Everything what coming from the God, that's a blessing on this. Everything what coming from our ego, from the we call it evil, this is a bad. And we need to confront our ego in ourselves and pray to the God to give us blessing and give us a better world. That's what we're doing now about Ukraine. We're praying to stop this insanity, to construct something what's working for all of them and stop the war.
شكرا جزيلا لك المخرج إيغور لوباتونوك للمشاركة معنا في حوارات السياق. مشاهدينا، شكرا على طيب المتابعة. إلى الملتقى.